Let's learn Clojure together. The first time I've heard the word Clojure was in the 2022 Stack Overflow Developer Survey, when I was looking at top paying technologies. Right here, Clojure is right at the top by a long shot. Also, you can check out some of the other programming languages and how much do they pay on average. So Clojure is a robust, practical, and fast programming language with a set of useful features that together form a simple, coherent, powerful tool. Like I said, it's not installed on my system. I don't know how it exactly works at all. We're going to install everything together and let's get started. We're going to click Get Started and then read what tools do I need. Here it says install these first. Here, Clojure. Click on it. And I am running a Windows system, so I come down to Windows and it says prerequisites are Java. Okay, click on Java. It says Clojure requires Java. Visually supports, you can read all of this. We just got to make sure that Java command is on the path or the Java home environment variable is set. This is probably the most important thing. If you don't already have Java installed, we recommend using Adoptium. Okay, we'll go with that. We will download the latest release. Here we are downloading. Let's go back. Okay, go to adoptium.net, download, ensure Java is on the path. Okay. I have clicked on the setup file. Let's install. Add to path is selected. Will be installed. Okay. Everything looks good. Add to path environment variable selected. Next. Ready to install. Okay. While this is installing, let's ask ChatGPT about Clojure. Tell me about Clojure programming language and why I should learn it. It says Clojure is a modern dynamic programming language that runs on the Java virtual machine and is designed for concurrency, immutability, and functional programming. It's a dialect of the Lisp. Several reasons why you want to learn Clojure: concurrency and parallelism, functional programming, interoperability. Sounds good to me. In the meantime, our Eclipse Timurin installation is done. Let's finish that. Here it says check your Java version by running Java -- version. I am using Miniconda Anaconda prompt, but you can use your command line interface. We're going to say Java -- version. And yep, we have it running. That's great. So we have taken care of the prerequisites, Java. Let's go back. Now we have installed Clojure, I believe. Let's double check. Yeah. It was saying Windows prerequisites Java. We have done this. Next is the editors. As you see, we have installed Clojure. We need to choose an editor. Here it is many options like Emacs, IntelliJ, but we're going to be using Visual Studio Code. Here it says the Calva environment for interactive Clojure development. Let's take a look. Here I am in my Visual Studio Code. I'm going to go to extensions and search for Calva. Here it says Calva Clojure and Clojure script IDE. Just click install. It's being installed. So from the looks of it, we have it ready to go. Let's go back to getting started. So we have installed the Clojure and the editor using VS Code. How do I work with these tools? It says here that the details will depend on your operating system and the editor, but the essential flow for all of them is the same. Create or open a file. Connect to Clojure environment, aka REPL. Write Clojure code in your editor. Evaluate the code in your editor using the connected environment. Repeat. So I was wondering how I can start writing Clojure code, and I was a bit at a loss, and then when I went to the editor in VS Code, it said the Calva is a getting started experience. When I clicked on it, I came to this page, and it says I have VS Java installed. Okay, but you'll learn. It says we will be using a cloud environment. You will open an instance of a VS Code in the development environment running in the browser. The environment will be Java, Clojure tools, and Calva installed. We have Java installed and Calva installed. And actually in Visual Studio Code, I searched for Clojure tools. Maybe we'll install that. I haven't installed it yet. But in the meantime, let's follow this and see where it leads. You click on this button when you follow these, get started with Clojure. When you click, it first prompted me that I need to log in with my GitHub. So I had to log in with my GitHub account. And here it's allowing me to choose my editor desktop. I'm not sure how to proceed here. Let's go with the browser, because some of you who doesn't want to install everything maybe all at once can use it. So everything should be installed here. Oh, user validation. I have just entered my phone number and validation code from a text message. I entered it and we are continuing. After you log in, you find yourself in a cloud-based Visual Studio interface. It says that we're going to be studying through 3 files. I've learned that the extension for Clojure is CLJ. That's good. And then I have done these instructions: maximize the browser window, close the Explorer pane, shrink the output terminal to about a third of what it is now. And then if you have Calva installed as an extension, I believe you have this button right here, and it says click or to jack in or connect to REPL server. You have to do that. When you click, it says to click on the fire up getting started REPL. And when you select use existing temp directory, then it opens up 3 files. And each one of them comes with a ton of information. Now I have read through about half of this. You start with hello REPL, then move on to welcome to Clojure and hello Pareded. I found that this is not my style of learning, but I did learn a few things. So for example, this is a string and you can evaluate it by clicking Control Enter, and it will actually write out what the string is. Okay. Here's a loop, for example. We can click on any part of the loop, for example here, and click Control Enter, and we get the output right here. I'm using REPL 7 times repeated on the console. Also, the cool thing about Clojure is that you get inline completions, as you see here with this arrow symbol. It has also completed the output right inside of the IDE and here as well. And you can also use Control Enter to evaluate, for example, wherever you click on your function or on your code matters. For Clojure, I found, for example, if you were to click on map and enter Control Enter, click Control Enter, then it says that this map is a function of Clojure.core map. On the other hand, if you were to, for example, put it right here where the exclamation mark is and say Control Enter, it says unable to resolve the symbol in this context. On the other hand, if you press Control Alt Enter at any time, we get the result of the function, and also we get it inline. So this is what I've learned in a nutshell from what I've read. I haven't finished reading the entire thing. Also, the closing brackets are protected by Clojure, so you cannot delete it simply by doing backspace or delete. To be able to delete them, you have to do Alt Delete or Alt Backspace. Here we go. Alt Delete or Alt Backspace or Alt Delete. Anyway, so I'm going to leave this behind and move on to my local Visual Studio Code, but I would recommend you read this, learn as much as possible, and then I'll see you soon. So here we are in my local instance of Visual Studio Code. I ran into problems running CLJ files. I created a file called test.clj, which is a Clojure file. And then when you install the Calva extension, you have this REPL button right here. Click or jack in or connect to REPL server. So we have to do that to be able to run Clojure code, as far as I understand. I believe I failed a few times trying to do the second one, and when I click on the first one, I get these 3 examples. Now, I think I'm not sure what these exactly are, but I think they are package managers. Don't quote me on it. But I was able to get some luck with MBB. When I click on MBB, actually it's starting a server and it is connecting. See, it says, and REPL server starter on port. Okay, this works. This allows us to run our code. And just quickly, we have GitHub Copilot enabled, and I found GitHub Copilot is able to complete Clojure code. That's great. So to make a comment, we do 2 semicolons and say add 2 numbers together. And for example, here's a function in Clojure, def n add. It says unused variable because we're not using it yet. AB takes into parameters. I guess I'm using the lingo that I have from Python and JavaScript, but I'm sure they're called something similar. And then the way you work this function is plus and then the A and then the B variable. And to run this, I believe we do this. Let's see if this is going to work. Actually, let's say run the function. Oh, okay. Everything has to be in parentheses. And then Alt Enter. Oh, okay, I had to run this part first. So you run this and then it then understands it. And it says REPL connection was closed. This is another problem I was running into. You have to reconnect. I'm not sure why that is happening. Again, I'm doing the exact same thing. We are connected. So first, see, so maybe we can repeat the mistake. See, it says, when we try to run this, it says could not resolve symbol add. So you have to first Alt Enter the function definition and then the second part. And then now we get 3. We're effectively adding 1 and 2 together. We also get an inline completion right here as well. I believe to run the whole file in sequence, you have to initiate it from the terminal. I haven't done that yet, so I'm sure we'll get there in time. Remember when we were trying to connect to REP and we were getting these Babashka MBB Joyride options? I did a bit of a search and I came across this really great link. I'll put this into description from GitHub, just getting started with Clojure on Windows, and it really was talking about this lining in package manager, I believe. Oh no, it's just Chocolate is the package manager. So I might be making mistakes. It does say this is like a package manager right here, Leiningen. And a lot, I've actually read that other people were recommending Leiningen too. So I went to Leiningen. It says for automating Clojure projects without setting your hair on fire. Okay. So I guess this is the way to go, but I did not install it yet. I did not want to install a lot of stuff without first understanding the basics. That's why I just wanted to clarify that I found that MBB works fine for now. At least we're writing functions, defining variables, so on. But I'm sure at some point we'll get to more complex ways of understanding, or more simple ways of understanding Clojure. So let's just continue asking ChatGPT to teach us Clojure programming language. As you remember, we had asked why we should learn it a bit, an explanation. And concurrency and parallelism, functional programming, interoperability, community, and ecosystem were the reasons why. Now then, I said teach me basics of Clojure by giving me examples. So let's just go through these before we end this video. It says data types. Clojure has a few basic data types, including numbers, integers, and decimal strings, keywords, and lists, for example. Let's copy these into Clojure. And I keep disconnecting because it says no project type selected. I don't know exactly what that is about. So when that happens, I'm just going to keep on connecting back in. So for example, here it says numbers. I believe if we do Alt Enter, so we evaluate, this evaluates to 1. We also see a line in evaluation. So essentially we could entirely close the output Calva is what I'm understanding. You can actually evaluate your code straight. Oh, see, again, the connection was closed, it says. Okay, we are reconnected. Alt Enter, again, evaluates these two numbers. Strings are the same way. And if we were to do Control Enter, we don't get anything. Well, Control Enter on the 3.14 actually gives 3.14. Keywords. Let's do first Control Enter. We get hello. Alt Enter gives hello. Here's a list. What will happen? To ta.call is not a function. Okay, do we have to assign it to say print? Okay, yeah. This evaluates. X says unresolved symbol. Could not resolve because we have to maybe define it. Can we define it like that? Okay. I'm not sure. We'll skip this part then. And then it says function Clojure. Functions are first-class citizens and can be passed as arguments to other functions. Functions are defined using the def n keyword and take one or more arguments. For example, let's copy this. So we have a function. We're defining a function. Just make sure that everything is in these brackets, the parentheses. We're going to have two numbers and add them in this manner. So if you try to run just this line right here by Alt Entering, we get could not resolve symbol add because we first have to run this function definition. Okay, connection was closed. Okay, reconnected. I'm going to figure this out for the next video, hopefully. But for the time being, this is the way it is. Okay, I believe we have defined the function, and we can run this and get a response. And if any of you who are watching know about these, and please do tell me in the comments what I'm doing wrong and point me in the right direction, please. So this is how it works. I guess we're getting a hang of the syntax. Like functions go in parentheses, the parameters, arguments go in square brackets, and then, for example, the arithmetic operations are defined in this way. We could have changed this to multiplication, for example, and run. This gives 6 now because it's 2 times 3. And when you're using the functions, you put them in between parentheses as well. Let's continue. Conditionals. Clojure has basic conditional statements like if and cond, for example. Okay, let's try this first. And when we run it. Okay, so I just pasted this, and again, we're getting that unresolved symbol. X is not defined. So I actually went ahead and asked Copilot to define X, and this is how we define it, I believe, and then it works. So no problem. Let's just run this first, and we run this again. X is 0. So if X is 0, then write X is 0. What about if we were to define X as 3? Oh, we first have to run this, and then run this. X is not 0. So this is how you write a simple conditional. Okay, again, the condition goes into parentheses. As you see, the equal sign is added at the end. This is an interesting way of writing it. Definitely nothing like the programming syntax I've seen. Here is another way with the cond statement. Let's take this. Here we are. So it says we'll probably have to define X again, or we're gonna do it. Okay, let's define X as 1. Let's run this. Okay, so condition, if X is 0, then 0. So it's asking if X is 0, print this. If X is 1, print this. Otherwise, print X is something else. If we run this, it says X is 1. If X were to be 5, let's run this first line. And then the rest, X is something else. Okay. All right, so you see the colon is also before the else. So I guess this is going to be a repeating theme. Loops. Clojure has several constructors for looping, including for, doseg, and loop, recur, reduce, for example. All right, let's just try for now. When we run it, we get 14916. Why? Because we are squaring them. Well, x times x. If x is 1, x times x, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3. Okay, again, x, and then we define the range like this. Actually, it's really simple. I'm starting to like Clojure, honestly. I know it's going to be weird at first, but the way it's written is very simple. Once you get a hang of the syntax, I believe. All right, data structures. Clojure has several built-in data structures, including lists, vectors, sets, and maps. So here's a fun little thing. Lists in Clojure are defined with parentheses. Vectors are defined with square brackets. Sets with curly braces. Maps are like Python dictionaries. And pay attention, right? The colon again comes before. It's not like C equals 3. It's equals C to 3 kind of way of writing it. We can actually copy this. You can evaluate these expressions. So this one doesn't want to evaluate. I'm not sure why. But if we were to do this vector, it writes out both in the output and in line the set. Okay, it gave quite an explanation. It says macros are a powerful feature in Clojure programming language that allow you to define new constructs that are expanded at compile time. Macros are defined using the def macro keyword, and they take a set of expressions, return a new set of expressions. So it says that it's more readable, and actually it expands on the regular functions that you are able to do things with macros that you cannot do with regular functions. For example, you can use macros to create new control structures, such as a while loop, or to add new functionality to existing data types, such as adding a zip function to the vector data type. Another benefit of macros is that they can help you write more expressive, readable code. Instead of having to write nested if statements, you can use a conditional macro to write more readable, maintainable code. Okay, macros are also a powerful tool for metaprogramming, which is the process of writing code that generates, manipulates other code. So we have the same function. So def macro when let, binding and the body. So when let is the macro, the name of the macro, binding and body. Then says let bindings when, first binding. Let's see what it says. Here, when let is a macro that takes a binding and a body of expressions. It's similar to the let statement with a condition. But in this case, the condition is when the first element in the binding is true, it will execute the body of expressions. Oh, okay, this one. Macros can be a bit more complex than regular functions, but with practice, you'll be able to write your own macros and take advantage of the power and expressiveness that they provide. It's worth noting that macros are not always the best solution for a problem. Using them excessively could lead to hard to reason and understand code, but I'm definitely feeling it right now. So it's always good to be mindful when using them. Well, okay, this is interesting. I already feel a bit overwhelmed, but I hope you learned something. I'm really excited to be starting with Clojure. Well, we'll explore Clojure. We'll dive deeper at times. Let's see where this goes. I hope this was informative, at least on how to install it and get it running. Sorry that I couldn't figure everything out exactly, but I'm sure in time we will. Again, if you find something useful that is helpful, please let me know in the comments for me and for others to see. And see you in the next video. Take care.